Start with the temporal, ethmoid, and sphenoid. Remember we didn't cover them last week? We're going to start off. This is a disarticulated temporal bone. It happens to be a right one. But you won't have to learn it this way. You just have to learn it on the skull. Okay? So I just want to show you what it looks like out of the skull. Clear? Hello?
Clear.
Good. Okay, so what you need to know, this is the temporal, this is the right temporal bone here, and here is the left temporal bone. So you need to know it from the outside, and then you're going to have to locate it on the inside of the skull as well. So let's start on the outside. Let me just take off this mandible here. Okay. All right. This flat surface, see this flat area? Did we learn a word?
That wasn't even me this time.
Did we learn a word from Latin for flat?
We probably did.
Squamous. Remember squamous?
Yeah.
So this is the squamous portion of the temporal bone, the flat part here. Hello? Okay, this part over here of the temporal bone that connects to the zygomatic bone that forms the back of the zygomatic arch, this thing's called the zygomatic process of the temporal bone. This is all in your handout, all these terms. This bump that you can palpate right behind your ear, this hard piece of bone right there, that's the mastoid process. And then this pointy process, what process ends in a point? Styloid process, right there. Styloid process, mastoid process. And this depression here, where the condyle of the mandible sits, is called the mandibular fossa. So this depression in the temporal bone is called the mandibular fossa. When you put mandibular fossa, styloid, and mastoid process. When you put the condyles of the mandible into the mandibular fossa, you form a joint called the TMJ, temporal mandibular joint. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and then lastly, on the inside, and you can see this nicely over here, this section here. This section here is called the petrous portion of the temporal bones, right here. Right and left petrous portion of temporal. And these are very interesting because these are the densest, strongest bones in the human body, right there. Why? Densest, strong, because the inner ears are in here. The little ear bones need to be protected.
Like 3 bones?
Yeah, the 3 bones in the ear, malleus, incus, and stapes, are in there, so nature made these very, very strong. Okay? And that's it for the temporal bone. Any questions on that?
So that all continues from that area?
Yeah, this is all,
That's all
this is
one
the
piece?
inside, this is one piece to this point here, and then this thing becomes the sphenoid bone, so this section here is the other petrous portion. Okay?
When you do the test, okay.
Don't worry about the test.
No, just show me again.
Right here, this thing here, this
Okay,
whole
so
thing there.
I didn't know if you wanted to show this on here.
No,
what would
this
it
I
be?
will not put on the test.
Okay.
This, a real skull I will. Okay?
So can you look at one more time?
What do you want me to do?
Oh, this petrous.
The petrous portion.
Yes.
Right and left.
On the
Petrous
top or below?
means resembling stone,
Okay.
because it's so hard. Okay? The 2 petrous portions, okay? Okay. Next is the ethmoid bone, and this is a disarticulated ethmoid. It sits right behind the frontal bone that you can't see through it, but that's where it sits. And you'll only be responsible for 2 views. First view will be a superior view. And in the center right here, can everybody see this? In the center of the frontal bone from the superior view, this section in here is called the ethmoid. This is the ethmoid bone. And you see this little plate with a lot of little holes in it? Well, that's how the ethmoid bone got its name, because it looked like a little strainer or a sieve. And a sieve in Greek is ethmos. Ethmos means sieve. It's right in your handout in Latin. Okay? So this plate that has all the little holes on it is called the cribriform plate. Cribriform plate. That plate with all the little holes on it. We're going to do little holes a little later today. And then this little thing sticking up in the air, that little thing sticking up in the air off the plate. To the first anatomist who saw that, it looked like the comb on a chicken, like a chicken's comb. And comb in Latin is crista, and chicken is gallus. So this is the crista galli of the ethmoid bone. That thing sticking up in the air there. What's your problem?
What's a chicken cone?
It's like a
gallop,
little red
a
thing on
chicken
top of
comb,
the
like the
Oh.
little thing, it's like a little,
Oh, okay.
okay? Well, okay.
You
And
would.
the front view, you need to see through the nasal cavity. The upper part, you remember the upper part of the nasal septum was the perpendicular plate of the ethmoid?
Yeah.
You need to recognize that. And then on either side are the two middle nasal concha. Remember the middle nasal concha? Those are part, right here, part of the ethmoid. So you can see the two middle nasal concha. What you can't see, because it's a plastic piece of junk, are the two superior nasal concha. So just know that the ethmoid has two superior nasal concha. You don't have to find them. And it also has two orbital processes. And you don't have to find them. So just know it has those four
So
structures.
those one are like a middle nasal concha.
You can see the two middles right here. See them? And you can see the perpendicular plate. You can see the cribriform plate and the crista galba. And that's the end of that. Okay? Now on your handout is a picture of a disarticulated ethmoid. Okay? And there's a couple of things on that picture that I'm going to ask you to try to memorize for lecture, but I won't ask it on a test kind of thing because you can't see them on an articulated bone anyway. All right? But what you do need to know are the two views of the sphenoid. Sphenoid in Latin stands for wedge, kind of wedge-shaped bone. And you need to know a superior view of it and an inferior view of it. Okay, so we'll start off with a superior view of it. It's found right behind the frontal and in front of the petrous portions of the temple. This is this view. It's kind of this view. Everybody got that? And what can you see? Well, you can see the two wing structures. This is the lesser wing, and down here are the two greater wings. So you can see them here. Lesser wings and the two greater wings of the sphenoid bones. Okay? And you don't need to know this for a test, but it's on the handout. These things here are the spines. These are the spines of the sphenoid. Okay? And you can kind of see them sticking out, but they're really not very well articulated here. Really not. So just when you get back, just cross it off on the sheet where it says spine, sphenoidal spine. Don't worry about that. Okay? Very important is what's called the sella turcica. The sella turcica right in the center here. You can see it here as well. The sella turcica in Latin stands for Turkish saddle. Like it's a kind of a saddle you would put in, it has a high front and a high back. Can you picture that? Okay, what we're going to start is, if it was a saddle, where you would sit. The depression here in the saddle is called the hypophyseal fossa of the sella turcica. So if I point to this during a test and I say name this depression, I'm asking for the hypophyseal fossa. If I point to the same thing and say name this whole structure, I'm asking for the sella turcica. See the difference?
The structure includes that bump too?
I'm going to show, yes, this back, this is the dorsum sellae. That's part of the sella turcica. These two pointy things, you see these two pointy things? Those are the anterior clinoid processes. They're part of the sella turcica. Then you have two middle clinoid processes here and here. Let's see. You can see them here. These could be on the test, yes. These are the anterior clinoids. These are the middle clinoids here. And then on the dorsum sellae, these two bumps on the top, those are the posterior clinoids. Okay? Okay. Now there's a groove that you can see. See this kind of a groove thing here? Well, your cavernous sinus goes here in a living person. It houses the internal carotid artery and some other important structures. But you really can't see it well, can you? No. So cross out carotid sulcus off your list. Okay? Because you can't see them on these things. Hang on, let me see if there's a real skull here.
Did you post the prior one on YouTube?
I think so.
It was not even.
Here, on a real skull, you can see this very nicely. Take a look. Here's a real skull. You see that little groove here? Right there and there? See that groove? That's the carotid sulcus. Okay? Right there. But I wouldn't put it on a test, so don't worry about it. And you can really see, look at those two, the middle You see the middle clinoids right there? How pronounced they are? See them? Right there and there. All right, and that's it for this view. When you flip over the skull, and you're looking at the bottom of the sphenoid here, you're going to see these 4 plates of bone right behind the hard palate. See them? See them? Hello? Those are called the pterygoid processes. P-T-E-R-Y-G-O-I. This P is silent. Okay? So you have to remember that this is the right side of the skull. Flip it over. This becomes the right lateral pterygoid process. This is the right medial one. This is the left lateral, and this is the left medial pterygoid process. You have to know that for the test. In between them is the pterygoid fossa. This fossa in between the two right and left ones here, pterygoid fossa. And then if you go up, you'll see a little canoe-shaped one right there. You see that canoe-shaped one? Right there. It looks like a little canoe. See it? What was Latin for canoe? Scaphoid. Remember the word scaphoid? So this is the scaphoid fossa there. Right here and right there. Okay, on a real skull, you can see it very nicely here, right there, and right there. See that nice one there? But these are the pterygoid fossas, and these are the 4 pterygoid plates. Okay, and that's it for right now. So go back and